Hey everyone, it's Jesse Green, your friend and colleague. You're listening to the Savvy Dentist podcast. Wonderful to have you company for another episode of the show. If you're tuning in on the video, well, guess what? Different background, which means a different location. And so we have finally moved to Brisbane. We have left Canberra, moved to Brisbane, and it's been great. And especially this time of year, it's a bit warmer in Brisbane than it is in Canberra, but it's been really nice to get back to Brisbane, to reconnect with some old friends, rediscover the things we love about the city. And for me, to really enjoy being back in our old house. It's been great to come back here. So lots and lots of good things, and can't wait to catch up with all the Brisbaneites around the place as well. Now today I want to talk about something that is really interesting, and that is understanding that most practice owners are really great at their clinical work. They're terrific at it. In fact, they spend a lot of time mastering it. They spend a lot of money investing in those skills. But what happens to the practice development skills? What happens to the wealth building skills? And today, I want to point out the fact that while most practice owners are really great clinically, they're not often great with their business skills and certainly not great with their wealth building skills. And I want to discuss why. We're going to talk about that today. And of course, nobody ever said it was going to be easy. And we're going to talk about what easy means and what easy doesn't mean. And over the next couple of episodes, I want to dig into this a bit deeper. But to start with, I'm going to stir the pot a little bit. I'm going to talk about tennis versus pickleball, because I have a bit of a belief that although, yes, pickleball is a rapidly growing sport, it's a bit of a cop-out. It's kind of like the easy version of tennis. It's kind of like tennis light. And it's interesting, when I was living in Canberra, my PT down there is a professional tennis player, or a former professional tennis player, and he'd always say that pickleball was great because even if you were new to the game, you could pick up a racket, I suppose, or paddle, or whatever you call it, and be competitive relatively quickly. But tennis is a much more complex game. It's much more nuanced. There's different moves. There's different maneuvers. There's a serve to master, an overhead serve that is. There's all sorts of different things to master. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that the reason a lot of people play pickleball is they don't have the energy, the drive, the desire to master the intricacies of tennis. And it's a bit like that in business. We see this happening all the time as well. We see people going for the easy option, going for the soft option, as I might say, and they're not learning the skills and they're not mastering the things they need to master to effectively run a business. And in actual fact, if you start trying to play your business like you play pickleball versus playing tennis, you should expect similar results. You should expect to never achieve true mastery. You should expect to not achieve your results. You should expect to always be a little bit behind the eight ball compared to those people who do invest the time and the energy to develop those skills and to master the game of business. And so what I'm going to talk about today is really to understand why that's so critically important for you. And I'm going to begin by talking about financial systems. So again, in business, there's really 4 financial systems that you need to master. And when I say master, like I said a moment ago, I mean understand them in depth, have them nailed down, and be really good at them. The first one is really about revenue generation. And that really means having a process for generating revenue. And it begins by producing a financial forecast or a projection of cash flow. And it's really important to understand what money is coming in, what money is going out over the next 90 days, 6 months, 12 months, and so on. And it's built on real data. And this is a foundation that you can really anchor into your practice, because it's going to give you clarity, it's going to give you confidence in your decision making, and it's going to give you something that you can reverse engineer into existence. And again, it's really important. Of course, when it comes to money in your business, nothing happens without revenue generation. So having a dialed in revenue generation system is really, really key. The second system you really need is a money management system. And this is allocating money to different buckets. This was popularized quite recently by Mike Michalowicz in his book called Profit First. And we've all heard about this concept. It's been around forever. It's been long before Mike wrote about it, as he had acknowledged. But his book really deals with it very elegantly. And in our context, what that means is separating your money into different buckets so that you have enough money for different circumstances. So you want to have some money put aside for day-to-day operations. You want to have money put aside for obligations such as tax and paying your team's superannuation. You want to put money aside for any capital expenditure that you're thinking about, whether it's new chairs or new suction motors or whatever it happens to be. You want to have money put aside for a rainy day should there be some unforeseen event that comes along and really disrupts things, COVID, for example. And most importantly, you want to have money put aside for profit. And what I mean by that is you've got to take some money out of your business and build wealth outside of your business. As my friend Michael Filosi says, you've got to make bank. And that means taking money out of the business and investing it out of the practice and building your wealth external to the business. You cannot rely solely on the sale of your business to fund your retirement when that comes around. You've got to make sure you've been building wealth along the way. And so again, you've got to make sure that you are doing this diligently, doing this systematically, because if you're not, you're being a little bit amateurish in your approach to running your practice. And again, we want to go professional, we want to turn pro and not be playing the pickleball version of finance. Now, the third system you're going to need to have in place, of course, is a dashboard. And a dashboard is what allows you to oversee your practice's finance at a glance. In fact, it allows you to oversee the operations in general at a glance. And the dashboard really has two key sorts of data on there. There's leading indicators and lagging indicators. The lagging indicators are often referred to as key performance indicators, and they're results that occur after the fact. And so it would be your revenue at the end of the month is a lagging indicator. The leading indicators are those activities that produce the results. Now, of course, not all leading indicators are created equal. Some activities produce more of the results than others, the whole 80-20 rule. So the leading indicators, or the activities that produce 80% of the results, tend to be about 20% of the input. So that's the whole reason that 80-20 rule works, right? And so those 20% of activities we refer to as critical drivers. What are the activities that we need to focus on consistently, day in, day out, and track and measure so that we are confident that our results after the fact will indeed materialize? Having a dashboard around that is critical. Now, the problem that I see with all the dashboards that are created in the various software companies, whether it's your practice management software or other third-party platforms, is they do not track the leading indicators. They do not track the activities that actually produce the results. And of course, that's a major, major problem because you're only getting data after the fact and you don't know which lever to pull to correct things. So again, I like to use a dashboard that I've created myself. Yes, it's a bit more manual, but the data that comes out of that is so good because I know that if I miss my leading indicator for a day or a week or two, you know what? I can guarantee you my results at the end of the month are not going to be where they need to be. So even if my results for a given day are good, but my leading indicators or activities are not good for that day, there's always going to be catch up. And so we've got to make sure that we stay on the straight and narrow with those leading indicators. Now, of course, the fourth key thing you're going to need is some scenario planning. And so it's really important to understand what would happen if you were to lose a dentist. What would happen to your income? What would happen to your revenue? What would happen to your profitability? What would happen if you lost a referral source? What would happen if your costs jumped to 15%? So these are the sorts of questions that you need to be able to answer. And if you're not able to answer those sorts of questions, then you're really exposed. And so it's really important to make sure you have factored in all those sorts of questions as you go about your risk analysis. And so again, I've got a particular system that I use in my practice and that I teach our clients from that. But whatever system that you use is fine. But I think it's really, really important to have a simple and efficient way of doing that so that you've got that data and you've got that information and you're playing an intelligent game there. Now, again, what I would say to you is most practice owners really don't have much of an insight on these four systems. Building them takes a bit of hard work, and that's exactly why most owners skip it. They go back to the pickleball analogy. It's just too hard. The hard thing about hard things is that they're hard, right? And so that's why it feels like they're working, slaving away, but not really getting ahead. They haven't got the right systems. And so this plan is a system, and without it, you're guessing, you're flying blind. And when you're flying blind, that's the most expensive habit at all. It's really, really bad. So make sure you have that visibility. Make sure you have that system in place. So like I said a moment ago, doing hard things takes hard work, right? I've got some friends who have looked for the easy button when it comes to making money or creating wealth. And I'm thinking about a couple of friends who lost $100,000 recently. And in essence, what they did was they were looking for a quick fix. They were looking for a magic pill or a silver bullet. And they invested their 100K. And they're smart people. They're not silly. They don't normally do dumb things. They're quite considered in what they do. But they took the shortcut and they looked for the easy button. And they didn't have the right advisors around them. They were trusting hope instead of a process. And that was really their only system. And as a result of having that, I suppose, inadequate system in place, they lost that money. And it now means that they've got to try and make that up. And of course, that $100,000 that they lost, that was after-tax income. So they're going to have to earn a multiple of that again in order to end up in the same net position they were before they made that poor investment. So one of the things that I find when it comes to business is a lot of dentists are trying to master their investing more than they master their business. And I'm going to say the best return you can make as a dentist is running your practice efficiently and well. Now, I'm not here to give you financial advice. Please make sure you get the appropriate guidance from professionals around you for that. But what I'm going to say to you is it's really important to manage your business actively. As I said, that's where the greatest gains are going to come from. So my philosophy is to manage your business actively and invest passively. Now, for some of you, that won't be your jam, and that's okay. But the numbers actually tell the story. So my whole focus for the clients that we work with is to actually help them actively manage their business so that they produce surplus cash flow. And then they can decide what to do with it to invest outside the practice. But I'm very mindful of surrounding them with appropriate advisors and a strategy so that they're being smart with that money after they've earned it. So just remember, hope is not a strategy. When you trust hope in isolation, it can cost you dearly. You've got to have a plan as well. All right, so let's get to Q&A. We've got a question coming in from one of our listeners called Rachel, and she's asking, how do I set myself up financially? And how do I make myself financially bulletproof? It's a great question, and it's a question that not many people really ask themselves. Or if they do ask themselves, they ask it too late. So if you're listening to this, I want to go through a process that I want to share with Rachel here, but if you're not Rachel, take this same process and apply it to your own thinking. So step number 1 is to figure out what do you need to live on should you not be working. So whether it's retirement or some other situation where you're no longer working. And in this example, let's just say you need $100,000 before tax for easy maths. Then we go, okay, well, how much capital would I need to have invested to generate $100,000 worth of dividends or income off that investment capital? And so typically, as a rule of thumb, we would say a 5% return is generally pretty achievable. And I know some will say more and some will say less, and that's fine. But for this exercise, we say 5%. And in that scenario, you would need $2 million of investment capital producing a 5% return to give you the $100,000 before tax. You go, great, that's fantastic. The next question is, how much capital do I have invested now? And let's just say you have $500,000 for the sake of this exercise. So that means we have a $1.5 million shortfall. And so we go, well, hang on, I need to now accumulate $1.5 million in today's money at a future point in time to give me that $100,000 dividend. So we go, okay, well, how much do I need to be investing over the course of my working life or however long I've got left of my working life to close that $1.5 million gap? And we've got to make sure that's in today's money as well. So we're looking at inflation-adjusted returns here. So you might say, after you've done the maths, you go, that's an extra $5,000 I've got to be investing over and above what I'm doing now to close that gap by the time I want to hang up the handpiece. You go, great. Okay, so now that we've done that mathematics, we take that $5,000 and we add that to our financial projection that I mentioned at the top of the podcast. And now we have a method where we can reverse engineer that financial outcome, because now that it's in our financial forecast, we can reverse engineer that forecast into life through our operations and our processes and so on. And so now our wealth creation is put almost on autopilot because we are factoring that into our financial performance of the practice. So that's how you do that. And so it's really, really key that if you're not doing that right now, you've got to make sure you do that, because one of the things that I see all the time is dentists getting to the end of their practicing life, hoping and praying to exit their practice for a mega amount of money that they need because they haven't adequately built wealth along the way. My hope for you is to build wealth along the way so that when it comes time to sell your practice, it's the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. It's not what you're relying on. It's a nice bonus. It's a nice cash injection for you at the end of the day, but it's not going to be relied upon to fund your retirement. So again, use that system really well. The same one that I just explained for Rachel there is the same one I'm going to suggest for you. So that's it for today. And in the next episode, I'm going to share a story with you about a practice owner who hit rock bottom personally, okay, and what happened to their finances when they didn't have the systems in place to hold it all together. Now, if you think those 4 financial systems I just talked about are optional, this story is going to change your mind. Okay, so make sure that you tune in next week, and we'll dig into that story next time. So take good care. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Bye now. Hey everyone, it's Jesse here. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the podcast. If you're looking for some more tools, some more insights, some more inspiration to help you create a practice that you love, as well as a life that you love, Well, head across to savvydentist.com and check out all the goodies that we have there waiting for you right now.